Hi, and welcome to the sixth video in our Elasticsearch and PowerShell tutorial series. In the last few videos, we've seen how to insert items into our index. Today, we are going to be doing the first example of searching for items. So before we can really update items or delete items, we really need to be able to actually search for those items. We'll find out shortly in those delete and update videos. And also for the update video, we're probably going to use a different index just so it makes a little bit more sense of why we would actually want to update items. Because in a service script, we probably wouldn't really be updating items, but we'll get there when we get there in that video. We're just going to be doing a very simple index, but let's actually start off with the search here. So we're actually going to have two videos for searching. In the first video today, we're going to be doing a very simple search, which is probably not going to be super useful unless you're just using PowerShell, in which case you will be able to pretty much do everything afterwards as well. And then in the next video, we're going to be taking a look at how to do a little bit more of a complex search with a lot of different properties. And that should actually let you filter down a lot more of the results before they get back to you. So let's actually go ahead and let's start off with a simple search here, which we've kind of already seen in the previous videos, but I never really explained exactly what we were doing. We were just pulling back tons of items and we were just checking them really, which that is pretty much what the first search method really is, but we actually have some more options that we can actually do with it. So the first thing that we want to do here is, as always, we have our beginning of our script here, which just has our login information and then our URI base. So let's go ahead and let's create a variable here called response to hold our results here. And we're going to do an invoke-restmethod. And we're going to do it on the URI. And we are going to do that on URI base. And then a backslash logs. And then a backslash underscore search. And then a question mark. And we can actually do a size equals 1000. So if we don't do the size equals 1000 here, we would only get back 10 results, as 10 is the default amount of results you get back. And we can actually see that in just a few moments here. Let's put the method as a get. And then we're going to put in our headers here as our headers. And let's just make sure we do the skip certificate check here. And that should be all good to go. And then we can just see what our response looks like. So if we actually run all this code here, as you can see, it gives us back pretty much what our response is here. So if we just actually look at it once more here, it should actually look a little bit better. So it took us 20 milliseconds to get our result. It did not time out. And then we have the shards, which the shards is basically your nodes in your Elasticsearch. We will only have one. And then we have our hits, which is our actual results. So if we do a dot hits here, we will actually get something else. We will have a total, which will give us the total amount of hits that we got back, which for us is actually 685. And then we have a max score, which is 1. So max, so in Elasticsearch, it'll give it a score of how sure it is that it actually representative of what you searched for. 1 being the highest, 0 being a no match at all. So it's basically a very percentage. 1 is 100%, and then it could be like 0.82 for 82% accuracy. And basically the higher the score, the more accurate it really is. And we can do a dot hit again here. And there is all of our results. So here we can actually see, if we scroll all the way up to the top here, this might actually be very large. All right, so we have our index, which is logs. This actually tells us what mapping or what index it is coming from. And this is our ID. So this is actually what we need. As a little spoiler, this is what we need to know in order to be able to delete or to update a record. We need to reference it by the ID. So if we don't know the ID, like in this case, we aren't creating our own IDs, but if you create a Elasticsearch index of, let's say, Active Directory users, and the ID is their username, which might not be really the best ID. It would probably be better to do the employee ID, just in case their username changes if they go through a name change or something. Then you would know to reference that employee ID to get that specific record. So if they change their name, you just go ahead, update the record with ID employee ID, and you can put it in. If they get fired or if they quit, you can go ahead and just say remove the ID that is equal to this employee ID, and it will remove that. So that is where creating your own IDs is very useful. Is definitely for an easier delete or update method. But in this case, there is no real easy to know ID because we are just storing services, and there's no real rhyme or reason for it. We just want the history of the services that are running that are supposed to be running automatically. And then if we want to know the actual details of these events here, we can do a _source here. And this will give us all the items with the timestamp, the server name, the application name, type, and message. Now do remember that this timestamp is in universal time. So that could affect you a little bit. You would have to convert this to your time, which depending on what time zone you are, that would change, which for me, it would actually just be -5. So that would be that. And then we have all the other information. And of course, with PowerShell, we can already do some sorting and some filtering because we could do where object type is equal to error. And here now we will only get our errors back. And if we only wanted errors where the application name is also contains bulk, we can do that as well. So here we can do and application name is like, and we could do a ** bulk, so it needs to be part of the bulk application. And I actually believe that I need to put these between some squirrely brackets here. And we need to do the $_ to reference what's coming from the pipe when there's multiple. And there we actually have it here. So here are all the events that are coming from our bulk script that have an error. And that comes from all the different times. And then we can, of course, sort that. We could even specify that even more to get, maybe we want a specific message here. Maybe we're looking for a specific service. If we have multiple servers running this, maybe we want it just with one server. So there are a lot of different things that you can do once you actually have all the results in here. And here is what you can actually see where how many results come back. So if we actually do a response .hits _source, and we can do a count on this, but there is also a different method as well, which is going to be the source response dot, I believe it is hits, and I believe that it is total. All right, so right now, our current response return here is 685, and we can see that the count actually matches 685. Now, if we actually remove this size here equals 1,000, we will actually see that we actually change that to so here we can actually see that the count is only 10, and then the hits total is actually the amount of items in your index. So we'll always return the total amount of items in your index that would be returned there. So do be aware that if you really want to know how many items came back from your actual search, that you can actually manipulate, the dot count will still be the best way to go look at it. And that is a very simple search. Now we can actually expand on the simple search a little bit more here. So let's just put our question mark size equals 1,000 here. And let's go and let's look a little bit more at some other examples that we could do. Now here, what we actually ended up doing was once we got our size and we pulled back all the results, what we did is then we filtered it on the error type. We also did bulk, but in this example, we will actually have to just satisfy with just getting error and then using PowerShell to filter out the rest. But what we can actually do here is we can actually copy this line. And in our search here, what we can do is before the size equals 1,000 or after, it doesn't really matter. We can actually do a size equals 1,000, the and symbol, q equals error, and make sure that I spell error correctly here. And if we actually look at, let's look at the count and let's look at the amount of items. So we know the total amount of items in our query, if we just do size as 1,000, is 685. In errors, we actually don't know yet. We didn't do the count on error and bulk because that would be a different number anyways. But let's actually go see how many items are pulled back if our query is equal to error and our size is equal to 1,000. So if we look at our hits total, it is 55. So because this query only searches error, the actual total amount of items in here is actually only 55 come back. Now, the reason why we had 685, even though the size was technically the default size of 10, it still searches that entire index and will give you the total size of that return. So you can know what size you would probably want to pick by doing a default size, and then you would get the total number of results back. And if you wanted the total number of results, you can also put that size back in there. That is completely up to you. I'll show you guys how to do that in just a few minutes. But there is the total number of responses that we get back. And we can see that in our count, it is also 55. And if we go look at our items, it is only the items that have type of error. So if we actually come back here and do our, if we just do our where object, and we only want to know where the type is error here. So all we need to do is that. If we actually wrap these in a parentheses here, this should give us 55 back. And that is 55. So we know that this search works properly. Now, what we can actually do as well is if we look at this source here, you're going to notice that if we actually just expand it out here, our results are kind of everywhere. So we have some timestamps at 10, 9:59, 9:59, 9:58, 9:59 now. So we're kind of just going all over the place, and we're back to 10. So, oh, actually, this is some okay ones. Let's actually just go ahead and let's run this again to only get, oh, I actually need to run this in this search again, actually. I apologize for that. All right, so here we have it 9:58, 9:58, 9:59, 10, 9:58, 10, 10, 9:59, 9:57. So they're kind of all over the place. They aren't sorted in any way. Now, of course, we could use PowerShell to sort this, but we can actually sort it directly in our simple search here. So after the Q equals error, we can actually do another and symbol here, and we can do a sort equals timestamp. Now remember that this is very, very important to be case sensitive. If I put timestamp here with a lowercase t and we try to execute this, we will get an error because it says that timestamp is not a valid mapping. But if I go and put the timestamp properly in cases, we get no errors, and we actually could then go look at the source here, and let's go take a look. So we see 10, 10, 10, 10, 9:59, 9:59, 9:59, 9:58, 9:58, and it keeps going. So it did actually sort all of our items in the correct order. So this could be a very, very easy way to simplify your searches and limit how much time, because Elasticsearch is so fast to find it. This will greatly reduce, again, your execution time if you're doing this in a script. Instead of pulling back thousands and thousands of items, only pull back the items that you want. In the next video, we're actually going to see how we can actually do even more with this, because right now we can only really filter on just like a simple query, where we could actually do a lot more if we use a body search and do a full query actually. So we will be seeing that in the next video. But what I want to show you guys just before we end off this video is a little bit what I was talking about earlier here. So let's actually do this. So what you would actually be able to do in a script, let's say you wanted to pull back all the items, but you were not sure on how many items you can actually pull back, because what you could actually do, you could do this. I believe that it's not the biggest size, I believe is 10,000. Yeah, so the biggest size that you could pull back at one time is 10,000. Now, of course, you could do paginations, which we can go over that in the next video, because I just don't think that you would really be using that so much. But basically, pagination is where you can offset, so you could pull the first 10,000 and then pull the second 10,000 and then pull another third 10,000 as well. But more so, you would definitely want to be able to filter, so you would never pull back 10,000 results back from your Elasticsearch. But if we actually just remove this size here, and we would just pretend that we would be doing a search really. So let's do our query of error here. So we want to find out all the ones that are error. So let's do a question mark Q error. And let's go ahead and let's run this. And let's go look at our hits total. So our hits total dot value is going to be our search results. Or let's do num results. All right, so our num results now is equal to 55. But right now, the only amount of items that we actually pulled back, of course, as you probably have guessed it, has been just 10. So let me do a count here. So we only pulled back 10 results, but we know that there's 55, right? So after you do a search, now of course you would probably have this in some sort of loop and not just copy pasting. This is just a very, very simple, quick example. So what you would be able to do is then do an size equals, and then you would be able to put your num results here. Now, of course, you would also do some intelligence on here to find out if num result was bigger than 10,000. You would, of course, have to then use the pagination. But if we actually just do this here, and we go look at the total value, it should still be 55. And it is, and now our count is also 55. So this would be like a very easy way to get all the results guaranteed, is to run the search first with just your query and then adjust the size based on the total value that you get back. This way you're able to pull back all the values that you actually need without specifying some arbitrary size. Now, of course, even in my scripts, actually in production, I specify a size of 1,000 or a size that I know will be big enough to capture all the different items that I know that I'll be pulling back. The result should never be bigger than that, but you should always definitely code a little bit better and be able to pull back the result kind of dynamically. This is something that I plan to actually put into my systems as well. This is something that I kind of just recently thought about, and I haven't been able to put it everywhere, but this is a very good way to pull back all the results that you actually get back from your query and not just some arbitrary number. So that is how to do a very simple search in Elasticsearch using PowerShell. In the next video, we are actually going to be using a body, and we are going to be building out our query where we can actually put some better filters, put some better matching, put some conditional statements, put our sorts, put our size all directly in there. And that will just make things a lot easier. It'll look more complicated, but the searching will be a lot quicker. We won't have to use PowerShell to then filter out different items. So it will definitely help you guys in the long run in your scripts if you guys are doing searches in your scripts to pull back items. And of course, all these are easily transferable to other languages. I'm just teaching it with PowerShell, but a lot of these are just API calls and formatting the different bodies. So you can easily use this with Python, with JavaScript, or any other language that you are able to do API calls, which is a huge amount. C#, Java, and the list kind of goes on. So if you guys have any comments or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. If it's something that can benefit a lot of people, I will definitely make a video on it. I will try to answer you guys the best that I can. And please be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and also hit that notification bell to be notified when that next video comes out. And I will see you guys on the next video.